Natalie. We need to say got it for the meeting being recorded. St. Croix Island, in Virgin Island. Brighton. It's so nice to see how we are spread. Haifa, Israel. San Juan Islands. And the circle grows. That's how it is in life as well. We start holding space for the circle and then it grows and it grows and it expands. And it never stops. It never stops because the impetus starts the centrifuge, the spiral, and then it's a momentum that gathers.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Diana, for this beautiful, beautiful welcoming. And Diana was talking about how the circle is growing. I was thinking about also how the womb, often only the woman knows at the beginning, and then she chooses who to share it with, and it grows. And so we have these beautiful elders sharing what they know internally, and now they're choosing to share it with us. And we feel the circle, the little womb, the little world growing. So thank you all for creating this with us and for listening in. I'm Yael, and I'm one of the co-dreamers of this, I guess, with Diana. And we wanted to invite elders to help us co-create these feminine containers for, I live in Alaska, and our elders here tell us that for something new to be birthed, we need to look at nature. And when we look at nature, it touches humanity. Nature has given the future, not in the hands, but in the wombs of the feminine. And so for humanity to have a future, which is quite questionable now, we need to turn back to the natural way and let women come together in true sisterhood and create a safe, brave space for something truly new to begin to emerge. And this is why we're holding these circles. And fortunately, Diana and the other elders that we have here, that we've had before, some elders that we are hoping to have in the future, have agreed and said yes and heard this calling. So we'll go over the guidelines of these circles that are in what our elder here. Sorry. So our elder here from the Yupik people in Alaska, Rita Blumenstein, who is no longer with us in the physical world, but she's very much with us. She found that these circles exist in all of the traditional indigenous cultures that she's met. She's met plenty around the globe. And they have different names and different ways, but they all share the same guidelines, which then she has gathered and put into words and given to us. And so it is very important, she said, to read these guidelines, even if everyone present knows them. Just like you set a table at the beginning of a meal, even if everybody knows your house and knows where the forks are. But when you're inviting, you're setting the table. So she called them talking circles, but talking circles are also confidential. What happens in the womb stays in the womb. And these we are broadcasting because we want to reach out to other people as well. So as some of our other elders say, the time of the secrets is done because humanity is in such dire straits that it's dangerous to share maybe some of the delicate things that are shared, but it's also dangerous not to share. And so you see already that just like in the womb, where we have sometimes when we're pregnant, nausea and hunger, where we have the mother heart and the fetus heart, right? But there's no contradiction, there's no competition. There are differences, but they complete and allow each other to not only coexist, but co-create something new. And this is what we're asking to do here. So in this circle, you will hear different truths, different stories, and you don't have to choose one over the other. And we are asking for the circle to do the talking and for all of us to do the listening. So our active action is listening. And the way to do that kind of listening we are asking for, it's very deep, it's as deep as the womb. It's with the ear at the center of your heart. If you look at the word heart in English, it has an ear inside of it. And the ear, if you look at the word earth, it begins with an ear. We are asking you to listen with that ear of the heart, of the earth. And with respect to yourself, to your other selves, our other selves that are in the circle and beyond, to listen with respect to time and attention. This is like a potluck of offerings. You don't have to push away the salad just to say that you're eating a pasta. You don't need to say it. We have different plates, different palates. Just allow yourself, take what is nourishing for you from different dishes, different offerings, and allow other people to do the same without dissing anything, without saying, I recommend that and not this, okay? Just take for yourself whatever nourishes you. Stay clear of agendas, titles, flags. Just listen with innocence, with the innocence of a child listening to something for the first time. Think about the first time you heard of platypus or pyramids or fairies, and you didn't know, is it true? Is it not true? What do I think of it? At the very first moment, you're just listening and feeling the story without judging it. Just like if you're usually a deer and now the lion is speaking about the chase, you can listen to the lion and experience that from the lion point of view and find the inner lion in you, even though normally you are a deer. Create the space for different truths to reside. Just like we said, you don't need to choose one over the other. And sometimes it's uncomfortable. It's like pregnancy. It's often, heavy and heartburns and all kinds of things. But if we allow that, we can expand. Diana tells me it's 500 fullest of its pregnancy. So we can do that. We can expand beyond everything we were to allow that to exist in us and then beyond us, possibly. And if anyone has anything they want to change or add to that, now would be the time to do that. If not, then we may begin. Okay. So with that, I would like to invite Kumu Sabra. Can you please start us off with a blessing or a prayer to create the sacred space and we'll go in. Thank you. Please unmute Kumuseba.
All right, Maika Ino. Aloha Maikako, greetings to everyone here. As you may know, I am on the island of Kauai, northernmost inhabited island of the Hawaiian chain. And I have been sharing with you the view of this beautiful bay, Kalapaki and Nawiliwili Bay. It's our main shipping center. And there are whales right off the coast. There are whales jumping up. I was trying to zoom in on them, but they're so far away. I don't think you can see the whales. And I'm going to turn this around and greet you with a chant that speaks of Kauai. It speaks of the sun that rises in the east. And it is certainly up now. When I came first this morning, oh, it was still dark, but it was nice and cool and beautiful. Yeah, now you can see behind me too, yes? My ka'i. Ea e kalama kahikina, kahiki mai aloha kupunae, ku kali ai kali awai kini, waiale hale molale e. Eia e nā puale mo ki hana, kamawai lua lani ua vehi e. E vehi ke ia aloha e, aloha ku o ne hana ue. Aloha no, aloha e, mano kalani po, aloha e. Aloha no, aloha e, mano kalani po, aloha e. Aloha mai kako. Greetings, everyone.
Mahalo, Kumuseba. Such a beautiful voice you have, such beautiful singing. And now we have asked last time, we realized Diana suggested that we kind of circle around a question, and we saw last time that it was very powerful. So this time we sensed, we tapped into what is being asked to be asked, and what we came up with, what we've asked the elders, what we'd like to ask all of you to feel into is, what is the opposite of crisis? Many places in the world are experiencing crisis in different ways now. And the ground, the earth seems to be shaking, either figuratively or literally, under many people's feet, and under many also non-humans. So we are sensing in a big way what crisis is. And our question is, what is the opposite of crisis? And where does it begin? And Ia, can I ask you to share your wisdom on that, please?
What is the opposite of crisis? Breath. Breath. And that just came to me when we in labor and when the womb is giving birth to itself, when new something is in it and something is birthing, there's a sense of contraction we call crisis. And that crisis is like breathing into. But as a human species, we have the tendency to resist the crisis, to resist that tension that's happening. And right now, the earth is calling to us like the mother when she's in labor, and she is in labor. Mother Earth is in labor. And so we, the human species, can best meet this crisis by taking time to breathe into her. And just breathe into her and not being resistant to her, to see the contraction that, as opposed to seeing that, oh, how awful can we see that it's a blessing on the other side of this how awful thing that we're seeing in the world? That this war that we're seeing in the world, mothers, is like that contraction that happens in the mother's womb, the opposition of light and darkness. And what comes through is like we like to resist darkness because we give it this externalized definition, but darkness exists within the womb, pressing against itself, light and darkness, whirling into itself to create something new. And we on this, in this sacred circle, in this sacred hoop, are the grandmothers who knew when it was time for birth, that we gathered at the circle, we gathered in the hoop, and we met up at the houses, and we put on the nice kittles, and we did the necessary rituals to make sure that a beautiful birth come through. So it feels to me that this crisis that we're in is like that contraction, and that if we all just take a pause and breathe in and allow it to come through. And each time we feel that crisis, take a pause, breathe in, and allow her to come through. Because there we're in relationship with Mother herself. We're working with Mother Earth and not working against Mother Earth. That would be my offering to how we could redefine what crisis mean in terms of this relationship of what's going on right now on the planet. Breathing in, pause, be with it. Thank you, Aishe.
Thank you, Ia. As you are speaking, I was listening to the words breathe and birth, and realizing, you know, how they are connected by sound. And as you're talking about breathing, maybe we can take a few breaths together and breathe. As we are often sharing distress, maybe we can share a breath consciously. So again, this is an offering. You don't have to do it, but if you want, we can take a breath. Like the first thing we ever took when we were babies, before our mother's milk. The first thing we ever took on our own was the breath. So let us take this breath together and take in that which we are inviting in, and allow it to flow with the oxygen in our blood, and take out that which we want to release. And do that again. Take in what we're inviting. And take out what we would like to let go of. And one last time together, consciously, quietly, in and out. Thank you for choosing this breath, for choosing this moment together in this one Zoom space, at this one moment, out of all the infinite possibilities. Thank you. And Celine, can we ask you to share next, please?
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for the invitation. I am honored to be part of this circle. I want to start by offering to you a coca quintucha, a quintu of coca leaves. Offering to you health, wealthy, and love. And I also bring my grandfather tobacco for cleaning up our thoughts of bad thinking, of negative thinking, bringing hope for an indigenous future. The coca quintucha has the power to bring us together, our doing with our saying. And I do offer to you this, I hope this coca leaf, mother coca, bring to your eyes light, honey to our lips, and gold to our heart for a better life for all of us. And I will offer to Pachachay Apu Kontiki Wiracocha, my singing for you. And these vibrations goes to your heart and keep there the ancient beating of the indigenous heart. Nunca, 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 ra, ra, ra. Serenita danza, ray, 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 ray. Serenita danza, ray, 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 ray. Mujercita. Cierto ripus jaija, cierto pasas jaija. Águila guamanchayay. Crisis. We have to talk about climate crisis, justice crisis, healthcare crisis, political crisis, dehumanization of the healthcare crisis, and land ownership crisis. For us, the opposite to crisis is restoration. Restore our rights. Indigenize the Western culture. Maybe the time for indigenize the global north has arrived to survive as a human species, as a human beings. Climate crisis is asking for climate justice. And this needs to be centering in us indigenous communities who have been on the ground for centuries, protecting our natural resources. Building ties between people, our land, and our traditional ancestral ways to live. And spreading these ways to live to the Western, to the global north, reconnecting to our lands is an integral piece of addressing climate change alleviation. And this needs to be social. This needs to be extended to all the components of the society, because climate crisis is going to kill all of us. How we can restore our nature, our water resources, our land, our air, without restoration of indigenous rights, without known centering in indigenous people, knowledge, and beliefs and ways to live our cultures. I will propose something to you. Why do not the international cooperation agencies, instead of bringing to us technical advisory for agriculture improvements, why these international aid agencies do not restore our property to our lands? Because we know perfectly how to take care of the agriculture. So to me, this means restoration. For us, this means restoration. Settlers historically and methodologically destroyed the environment that we indigenous people depends upon. We indigenous depends upon the restoration of our lands, of our water. And today, the full moon is saying to me, the moon is talking to me. That is bleeding. Is bleeding. Saying this state of dependence created by the global north, intentionally they create with these rich leaders having to look to us colonized people, offering survival assistance. We don't need that assistance. We just need the recognition of the ownership of our lands, the respect of our culture. We don't want anymore to be subjects of assimilation. Come on. Punishment for speaking our language. For having our culture. We need restoration to repair this climate crisis that is affecting our mother, the moon. Is affecting our siblings, all the animals, our siblings, all the plants. And so my grandfather Tobacco is telling me this. This is not coming from the books. What I am talking is coming from my own experience. What about the dehumanization of the healthcare? Restoration in that crisis means to return to the humanized birth attendants, humanized, demedicalized the medicine, because medicalization of medicine has bring to us to this crisis, pandemic crisis, cancer crisis. And what is the role of we women in this month of the women? About this 80% of the healthcare attendants, we are women, but just 25% we lead the health institutions. Restoration means give to the women the power to humanize the healthcare globally. I saw in this circle very powerful, so powerful women, so powerful women, wisdom women, we hold the knowledge, the generosity of our cultures. We have to take the place of leading. We need to humanize the healthcare to stop this healthcare crisis. COVID pandemic means that we'll live in the hands of men the leadership of the healthcare. Why? 80% of the healthcare workers, we are women, nurses, doctors, dentists, nutritionists. We all are women. It's time to empower women. It's time for restore this crisis. The same with the political crisis. Instead of bringing international aid to poor communities, poor countries, restore our ownership of our lands, of our corpses of water, our bodies of water. Give us an space to indigenize the Western culture. This is how crisis is going to stop. And the key word is restoration. Restore, restore, respect our knowledge, restore our ownership of the indigenous science. We need that. And I will pray for that. I will pray for the women in this circle to keep us together and to join our wisdom and to be powerful as we are united. Remember, restoration is what we bring in our DNA since ancient times. Thank you.
Tupananchiskama. Thank you, Celine.
You are very welcome.
Thank you. As Celine reminds us of restoration and of the Celine is a healer and a medical doctor, and so you can hear from her words that health and healing is such a big part of the wisdom that she carries. And as I was preparing for this meeting, I was reminded of the pandemic, of this crisis, and when our elders in the wisdom weavers of the world first had their film come out, it was just as the pandemic broke. It was April 2020, and we started receiving a lot of support from people throughout the globe, and some people were asking, where should we, we want to support financially, where should we put our money? And we didn't have the ability to receive donations at the time at all. We're still working on it, and we'll put a link at the end to those of you who may want to nourish back this effort and our elders. But at the time, we didn't even have that. And so we thought, where should we tell people to go to? And some of our team members were saying, this organization or that organization or this community, or they heard of that community, and a lot of them are indigenous communities, and people started pulling in different directions. And then some people were saying, no, our elders definitely also, their communities are suffering. We should tell people to donate, first of all, to our elders. And then I was, we were seeing our team and different people going in different ways. And I asked Kuyach, what do we do? And he said, we're taking it to the elders. We'll ask the elders. And so all of the people in the team came to the elders council, and suggested their different views and arguments as to why we should support this or that or the other. And I was personally thinking that the elders definitely have done such amazing work, and it's their film, and they are responsible for their communities, and it's probably where they're going to go. But the elders said, Mona Polaka, I remember, just said, it's up to each person to decide. It's not up to us. And as Celine is speaking about, we don't need, the authorities to help us in their way that they think is right. And so here is what we should do. Here is the plan. Here's the money. Now here is what you should do. But rather recognize and give us the ability to restore each person for themselves what they feel is, and not just feel from their ego, but again from their heart and from the earth, because our elders are saying each one of us has their unique gift to bring to the world right now. This is why each one of you is here, each one of us is here to bring that special gift, that special love. ואהבת לרעך כמוך. And you should love your other self as you, we say in Hebrew, not like you, not the way you are loved, but as you know how to love. ואהבת לרעך כמוך, ושרת לרעך כמוך, כמו שרק אתה יודע לשיר, like only you can sing if you're singing for someone else. Like only you can love if you're loving for someone else, not for your sake, but for the sake of your other self, be it human or non-human. And so restoration is a big part of self-authority in the Western culture. From day one, we are giving away our authority, right? To our parents, to our teachers, to our professors, to our boss, to our commander. And it's time to restore the authority which is in ourself, the self-authority that also sees our other self and knows, just like the womb knows, you don't have to choose if this heartbeat goes to you and nourishes your heart or your fetus's heart, but both can reside in the same body, in the same space, in a good way, and create new life. So this is something that I'm reminded of as I'm listening to Celine and to Io before, who was speaking about birth in the womb. And now I feel we are hungry. I am hungry for more. So Suzanne, can you please share with us your wisdom?
Okay, thank you. I don't know if you want to take, probably not take notes on this, but I'm so used to teaching my classes, my art classes, that when I talk, I have certain things, I just go down the list of what is needed to be an artist. But that really is what everyone is. Each one of you is an artist of living. So I want to take it from here. And if anyone wants to have a copy of my sheet for the information, you can let me know and I'll send you a copy. So anyway, I start out with, who am I? See, feel, imagine a whole being. You are not the author of your fate. You are the chooser of your guide. What is wholeness? It's not fragments. Wholeness is what I hear everybody talking about now. Wholeness is both the inner and outer self. How many of us go to the inner self when we're living what we think is just the outer self? And it has to do with what each one of you are talking about, how we have to correct things that are going on here. And so a lot of what I'm talking about is the inner self, and the outer self is in operation all the time. But where is our awareness? Where is our awareness in everything we do every day until you bonk down on the bed and sleep? We're doing for everyone around us, our outer self. But what's the inner self? What is the inner self that guides the outer self? And when I'm teaching my art students, that's what I'm teaching you. If you're going to have art that does anything, that holds together, that balances the whole thing, you have to work with the inner and outer, and it'll show on what you're doing. And that's what we're talking about. We're showing what we're doing to the whole world. So what I'm talking about is what is wholeness, not fragmentation. What is the wholeness of us? And that's what Holy Spirit means. We're created by a Holy Spirit, W-H-O-L-L-Y, and it's spelled H-O-L-Y. It's all the same thing. If we're a Holy Spirit, we have to stop this fragmentation. So we have both an inner and outer self. So what happens is our lack of awareness creates crisis. We don't use our wholeness. We don't use the content of our inner and outer self. So we have a crisis of awareness. And wisdom, I understand this has something to do with wisdom keepers or something that we're talking here. Wisdom is awareness of inner thoughts and impulses. That is what wisdom is, awareness of our inner thoughts that guide our impulses. So then consciousness, I talk to my students about this. There's conscious planning and unconscious scanning. So let's say we're making a meal for guests that are coming. So we have conscious planning of what we're going to have for the meal, it's at the table, all this stuff. Then we have an unconscious scanning, is just we look over the whole thing and see if this is what we need, is everything in place, is what we want, and so on. So that's two things, conscious planning and unconscious scanning. Do we use unconscious scanning for what we're doing on the planet, each one of us, every day? Morning to night? Morning to night? So that's what works in creating is with awareness of one's inner and outer self. And perception rests on choosing. Knowledge does not. We have all the knowledge. I hear you talking about it. I talk about it too, that the world is going to hell in a basket. Get rid of it. Get the hell is doing this and what country's doing that. And then my neighbor is a shit fit and a da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Shut up. What you're doing is not wholeness. That's why perception is not knowledge. We perceive something and then we go to work on it. So this is our crisis, is the wholeness, the content of inner self and outer self. That's the wholeness, the content of a human being. A human being. What are we being? We're a mess. That's all mine. So that's where we're getting to in what we are is the awareness of one's inner and outer self, because that's what motivates us to go through life. So what we're doing with curiosity and wonder, what do we do with curiosity? What do you do with wonder? You create wisdom. You create wisdom. Because if you're curious enough to wonder about what's happening to this planet, I've heard it here. What are we doing? It's not knowledge. It's perception that creates knowledge. So curiosity is one thing to say, oh my God, what's going on here? Oh, look at that. Oh, you know what happened today? Oh, today, blah, 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 blah. So that's curiosity and perception. But it's our choice what creates knowledge. Knowledge does not create choice. We're taught the opposite. So anyway, when we have curiosity and we have wonder, what we wonder about, I wonder all the time, what the hell's happening to this planet? I'm 85. I've seen a lot of stuff well before I'm 85. And I don't think a lot of you are 85. But I've lived enough to see what is going on. You know, where's art today? It's a mess. Where's awareness today? Oh, dee, 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 dee. And I say, where'd you get that idea? Well, everybody knows. And so that's when I say, where's our curiosity? And then I wonder why we're so doing this. I wonder, why are we doing this? What's the point in poisoning the planet? What's the point in killing all the animals? What's the point in what we're doing with, everybody has to have a car and everybody has said this and everybody has said that. And so we're polluting the earth, but we really don't care except when we sit down and talk about it. But what are we doing with this perception that somehow the planet's gonna stay here for us? Ha, ha, ha. Good luck. So anyway, the biggest thing we have to work with first is called forgiveness. Often when I mention forgiveness to people, oh, Sweeball, come on. What do you mean forgive? And then, I said, could we just be quiet a minute and just think about forgiveness? Forgiveness. That's what I rarely hear about. And that's the crisis we have of wholeness, is we've chosen our guide, but our guide about our fate is not forgiveness. I've had tons of things happen to me and people think about this and that and that. I've had all sorts of health crisis, blah, 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 blah. And so has all of you. But the whole thing is forgiveness. So that's what wholeness is about. That's what crisis is about. The lack of forgiveness, the lack of realizing this is perception, and the lack of understanding wisdom. So those are things we all have the capacity to work on, and we have children who are eager to hear this stuff. I can sit down with kids and they're just like, wow. I say, come on, guys, we can do it. So that's my message for you guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. As always, you make me think, you make me smile, you make me laugh. You make me think of other elders and other things I've heard, like, you know, our elders here tell us that the most unselfish thing we can do is heal ourselves. And as you say, you know, if we want something happening outside in the world, we gotta be the change we want to see in the world. We gotta go in and say, okay, where is the restoration that I need? Where is the light that I need? Not from outside, but in myself. So thank you for that reminder. And as you're talking about forgiveness, I was just at present at a conversation or a teaching given by Mamos and Sagas from the Teyuna tribes in Colombia. And at the end, they were telling the story. I'm going to tell it very briefly. They told it much better and much more beautifully. But there was this elephant that was alone, and he was envy. He was jealous at the ants that are all the time together and building things. And so he went and he stamped on their nest, you say in English, like their colony. And so they all started attacking him, and they went all over his body, and like these termites, and he was stung all over, and they went in his nose and in his eyes and in his ears. And the elephant was just, okay, this is too much, and he started crying for help. But the ants wouldn't stop until he started crying for forgiveness. And they didn't stop until he went in, and they could sense that he's asking it internally, not just from the outside, but also inside. So I was reminded of that when you were talking. And now let's turn to our Kum Sabra from Kauai, Hawaii, and ask Kum Sabra, can you share with us some of your wisdom? We need you to unmute, Kum Sabra. You are muted. Okay, I think now you're good.
Very good. All right.
Yes.
Well, I have moved away from and to a place where I'm in the shade and can sit up. But I'm listening to all of you, and I'm thinking about the trials and tribulations of people around the world, and reflecting on the fact that I feel very blessed to be here on this little island of Kauai. When I came home some 35 years ago, the elders told me that up until World War II, this island was totally self-supporting. I mean, we had all the food that we needed was right here. The taro, the sweet potato that was grown here was abundant. The fish were abundant, and that's how we fed ourselves. But after World War II, the economy changed because the harbors were closed. The uncles, the men could not get their fishing boats out. Everything, there was barbed wire all around the island. And so the economy changed. So this morning when I was down at the harbor getting ready to do the opening prayer for everyone, there was a big ship coming in, a container ship with at least 60, 80 containers, Matson containers. And most of what they're bringing in is food. And there's so many of us are saying, why? We can grow our own. We just have to work on it, concentrate on it, and make sure that we train our children, to know the importance of growing our own food. I'm also hearing that I used to watch the news a lot, and now I cannot, the international news, because it makes me so sad. I hurt, I cry when I read about the war in the Ukraine, about earthquakes here that have killed so many people, and it's just tragic, yeah. Um, and so in my teaching, I teach aloha. I teach my children to share respect for one another and to have fun together and to remember those things, those good times, and to work together. And alo is the presence of ha. Ha is the breath of life. And when you have that presence and that breath of life, you have so much. Your life is rich. Your heart is full. And it is so wonderful to be here with all of you and to listen to your stories from around the world. My computer broke down the other day, and I'm working on my phone, and I hope that I hope that the battery will stay good for until this is complete. But one of the songs I teach the children is share a little aloha every day. A-L-O-H-A, a little aloha in your day. Share a little aloha around the world. Well, aloha means hello, and aloha means goodbye, and aloha means I love you, and I want to take it higher. And then there's a line that says, I wanna get high with a little aloha. I can touch the sky with a little aloha, aloha. Share a little bit of aloha. Find a little peace in the world. Send out your blessings around you, and you will grow, and you will have peace, and you will have plenty. Aloha. Okay, my techie,
Mahalo.
you need to help me turn this to mute again.
Mahalo. Thank you so much, Sebra. And the birds were singing with you. It was so beautiful. Like they were cheering to every word. And yeah, the aloha is so powerful, and it reminds me of there was a time when, you know, our elders, when they first got together on Kauai, they were talking about how Mother Earth is crying for her children during this time. That was in 2017, and the tears are continuing. And I remember at one point we were asking, but you know, what can we do to help our mother with this pain? We don't need to save her, but we don't want our mother to be so sad. And I remember Pacha, our elder from Colombia, from the Yanacuna tribe, said, you know, when a mother is crying and the children want her to be happy, we need to dance, we need to sing, we need to play, we need to do good with each other. Just like, and then I was thinking of my own children, and how sometimes when they play together in a good way, when they give aloha, now I know to say this in a good way, it doesn't have to be to me, it's between them, but something in me is just like, okay, you know, now I can really just relax and be and know that they are good, that this is good, that life is good, that there is good. So thank you for bringing aloha and for bringing song and smiles and making our mother smile, the mother in us, the mother around us. Yeah, rejoice. So thank you for the aloha, mahalo. And Diana, I know the Zoom kicked you out, but I think you're back, right? Can we please ask you to share with us?
Thank you, yes. Toda, thank you. Crisis. So in Hebrew, crisis is mashber, and mashber comes from shever, meaning crisis comes from breakage. So there is, inside the word mashber, there is shever. Inside the word crisis, there is breakage. So when we are in crisis, there is a breaking between me and other. It might be a breakage between me and another part of myself. It might be a breakage between me and another person, me and the world leader, me and a situation, but there is always a separation. So how do we heal that? What is the opposite of that? So I'll tell you a little story. A friend of mine, an Israeli friend of mine who lives here in California, was visiting Israel a few weeks back when there is a lot of unrest there in Israel. And he wrote a text saying he was sitting in a cafe in the center of Tel Aviv, and he saw around him more and more armed forces coming around, and 5 armored vehicles come to stand, and snipers on the roofs all over the houses around. And from one of the homes, Bibi Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, came out, went into one of the armored vehicles and drove away. And then I realized he wrote his last sentence. I'm going to say it in Hebrew for those of you who understand, and I'll translate. ואז נהייתי מודע שראיתי את השטן בכבודו ובעצמו. Then I became aware that I saw the devil incarnate. And that, reading that, broke my heart. The other, as soon as there is a breakage, there is an other. And the first thing that we do is see the devil in it. See the devil in it. So if there is a break and there is me and the other, there is a devil that we see. It's so easy to see that. It's so easy to take that quick leap. The other is not me, the other is devil. And that can be a world leader, that can be your spouse, that can be your neighbor, that could be your lover, that can be a part of yourself that you vilify, that you make the devil. I want to share with you a picture that speaks more than 1,000 words on the alternative. Let me see if I can share my screen. This is taken a few days ago in Israel in the midst of huge demonstrations to stop the killing of Israeli democracy, to stop the unthinkable that's shaking the earth there in Israel. And here are these women, obviously singing to the cups, obviously offering them a flower. They're not seeing the devil in the other. They're seeing another self. So what I would like to speak of as the opposite of crisis is inclusion. So we have exclusion, I've seen the devil, that motion, that gesture, and we have inclusion, that gesture. So I'd like to take a moment here to close our eyes, to place a hand on our heart and a hand on our womb. And if you have a womb, either flesh and blood or etheric womb, please hold your palm over it. If you don't have a womb in this body, then keep both of your hands around your heart. And think of a crisis in your life right now, something that you are broken from, either within yourself or in a person that is in your environment, or a world leader, or a situation. The first thought that comes to mind is the right one. And the first impulse, the first invitation I'd like to offer to you is to see the breakage, to realize that this is other. This is something that is broken from you. This is something that you can gesture no to. And feel for a moment what the no gesture feels like inside of you. It's an option. We all too often take it. Let's consciously feel it at the moment for a second here. And slowly allow your arms to move from the no gesture to the inclusion gesture. For your arms to make a container to look at this other part, this part of the broken breakage, opposition to you inside of your outside, and to ask it, what ails you? To see its pain, to hear its prayer. What is it praying for? What is it hurting? How does it hurt? What is it yearning for? And is it very far from what you yearn for, or how you hurt, or what you pray for? Allowing yourself to include the pain of the other, not to condone this other broken part, this atrocious making part often, not to condone its actions, not to agree, but to see deeper into the heart of the pain that is there. And to join, to include, to contain that pain as yours, for it is an echo of our humanity together. Let's take a moment to feel that with whatever it is that came to you as crisis in your life right now, to include, to contain the heart of the pain, the prayer of the other. And allow your arms to come down to your lap or to your sides, and return to your heart, return to your womb, return to this moment. And when you feel fully here, allow your eyes to gently open. And welcome back. Thank you.
Tanda rabba, Diana. Thank you so much. A part of me wanted to stay in the inclusion, in the womb space a bit more. As you were talking, it kind of reminded me of Suzanne talking about the wholeness, the wholesomeness that we can reach inside us, and the restoration. And as you were talking about breakage, also in Hebrew, mashber, the word that Diana used for crisis, is also the seat of the birth giver, is also called mashber. So in Hebrew, crisis and birth, going back to Iya and her speak at the beginning about birth and breath. So crisis and birth in Hebrew are intertwined. And as you were talking about breakage, I was thinking about the breakage of water needed for each of us to come into the world. And when someone was saying something in the chat box, and I wanted to respond with an emoji, and one of the emojis was a rainbow, and one of the elders were mentioning light at the time. And so I was taken just by the thought of how the rainbow is created by the breakage of the light, and how often in mashber, in crisis, there is the breakage that is often painful, but bears so much beauty. And as I don't remember who said, oh, Catherine said that before we started talking, that there's an ending, and with every ending, there's also beginning of something totally different. Maybe Catherine, you can share about that, or about whatever comes to you. So let's invite your wisdom in, please.
Kia ora. As usual, there's a whole flood of thoughts that come. Listening to everyone talking. The thing that Diana was speaking about, it triggered me to have this thought, you know, chaos has a particular kind of energy, a particular vibe. In our Māori language, energy, there's a word for energy, it's ri, like cosmic energy is like hihiri, like, and as if for those who have been on these calls before, I've talked about how in our Māori language, you have one word and you put it beside itself. It doesn't just double the meaning, but it's got a transcendent meaning. When you put the word for energy, ri, beside itself to say riri, that means anger. Ni say, yeah, wow. And so I get riri, I get triggered by many things that I perceive in the world happening today. Interesting thing for us Māori, and I have an elder on this call who I would regard as my mentor. Kia ora matua, Ross, he's on this call. Lovely for him to be here so he can keep me in check. Riri, anger, is an emotion which, you know, I was taught resides predominantly in your puku. It comes from your gut. It's one of those gut energies, like, you know, near the red, the chakra down there, those lower chakras, right? Interestingly, the gut, the puku, is also where our whatu manawa resides, our intuition. It's interesting, I thought. When I was, you know, you asked us the question about what is the opposite of crisis, and like Diana, I go back to our language. What is the Māori word for crisis? There are many. One of them is mōrearea, mōrearea, which means chaos, upheaval, all that sort of stuff. Interestingly, you know, who was it that talked about being curious and fascinated earlier in this call, right? That's a good place to be. Interestingly, curiously, inside the word mōrearea is a word more and a word rea. And these two words are part of our creation story. The creation story, one version of them, of course, they're depending on which Māori peoples you belong to, there's a bit of tweaking of the creation story. Okay, it's all local, but a well understood one goes, ko te pū te more te well te aka te rea. Did you hear more and rea? It's talking about te pū, which is like the root. It's using the metaphor of like a seed that grows. This is how creation story, a seed that grows. So the root is te pū. Te more is like the tap root. It's that one that goes right down, you know, deep into the earth. Te wao is like the little rootlets that kind of come off. Te aka is like longer roots, and te rea are like offshoots, roots. So you get this visualization of how creation happens using nature as a metaphor. To me, that's how crises happen. So everything happens. Things happen when, you know, you let them get out of control and get all weedy. Not that there are really weeds in nature, because nature, everything has a value. To me, weeds are just like indicators of like, maybe a soil has not enough nitrogen. So you have particular plants that thrive in that environment, right? Some weeds thrive in droughty conditions. Some weeds thrive in like really boggy, wet conditions. Those plants are speaking to us and saying, hey, you need to find some equanimity and some balance in your environment, maybe, you know, you need to give more nitrogen. You need to, like, you know, make the soil more, the microbes in it more healthier. Your soil is dead. You know, so this is a metaphor for like having perception about your environment and making sure that you prevent these kind of quote unquote weedy situations growing to such an extent they become a forest of, you know, and that's crisis. Okay, I know it's a bit abstract, but generally, if we think of it that way, in there, there's a choice. You have a choice. Okay, when you see the weeds starting to get out of control, you want to like, oop, act, do something. Don't let it get out of control and overwhelm you. And I think that's what's really happened, regardless of the crisis we're looking at. There's a situation where, whether it's the politicians or the people, the citizenry have allowed, you know, the elected officials to get out of control. We're not holding them to account. They've gotten weedy. So we must exercise our choice, but it's a kind of a choice that takes discipline, and it begins like the creation story at home with your own self. You've got to be weeding your own garden, and I'm working on this to be disciplined about this myself, hey, I haven't mastered it. I'll probably be on a journey of ever seeking to master it, and I'll never arrive. But it's, you know, the old cliche, it's the journey that counts. So be disciplined in weeding our own gardens. That's the rongoa. That's our word for remedy, or, you know, an antidote, rongoa. And in that word rongoa is that again. Is referencing that vibration of enlightenment. Okay? Rongo is to perceive or to listen, but more broadly to perceive something. So perceive something with an enlightened mind. And then you have rongoa. It's the remedy, which not many of us, you know, too few are doing. Perceiving with an enlightened mind, with a wise mind. You know, not just intellectually smart. Anyone can be an intellectually smart person, you know, maybe like invent the nuclear bomb. That was smart, not wise. There's a difference. So rongoa. And as Celine was talking about, restorative justice, you know, to do that, it takes wisdom. And also we've talked about aloha a lot today. Aroha, of course, for Māori, the word is aroha for compassion, but it's also understanding and tolerance and patience, all that, those basket, you know, of values. And speaking of values and wisdom, where does that come from? It comes from, well, for the Māori traditions, our source, like the beginning and the ending of all things, the source creative force that brought forth the universe in the first place. And many of us know that to be Io, the parentless one. Io has many other names as well. Io, Matua Kore is the parentless one. Io Take, Io the ancient one. Io Te Wānanga. Io, the source of all knowledge and wisdom. Okay. So, I would encourage us all to think of what is the opposite of crisis. It's about the choices that we make. And like te pu, te more, te well, gathering in the resources to create, which is what we need to do. We need to gather together the resources to create a new kind of better world. We need to mobilize. You know, Celine was talking about, you know, we need to mobilize and have people come together, and, you know, that takes a lot of forgiveness too, and reminding ourselves that the other isn't really, the other is our own self. There's a lot that needs to happen there before we can mobilize as collectives and then exercise our choice as individuals and collectives to hold, you know, decision makers and officials and such to account. So aroha to everybody, aio ki te aorangi, which is to say peace to the universe. And maybe one day we can sing that song. My time is up. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you so much, Catherine. I was just thinking myself, oh, we should ask her to sing that song at some point. So I'll talk to you later, see how long it is, and maybe next circle we can start with that song or something. Well, let's talk about that. Wow, so much is coming in. I'm trying to collect my thoughts, but we are getting closer to our end, so I will just say very briefly that as Catherine was talking about weeding our own garden and healing our own garden, and also restoring a balance. And often when we have a crisis, when we're in deep distress, we're like, I wish it wasn't here. I wish, let's just pretend it's not here, you know. But it doesn't happen, right? Because life is stronger than our wishful wannabe imagination stuff. And so we have to face the crisis. And so what do we do? and Riri, his anger, often is a form of breakage, of crisis. And I was just watching a talk by Thich Nhat Hanh, which is a Vietnamese Buddhist monk that passed away last year. And he was talking about emotional storms, that kind of crisis. And he was saying, when this rises in you, we have the seeds of different emotions, different seeds in us asleep. And then a drop comes and waters it, and something erupts, right? Something rises in a very fast way. And he said, don't leave that feeling alone, because if you do, it takes over everything. And it reminded me of, we have a small women's circle of very wise women, and we were talking about courage. And often parents are saying to their kids, or people say, have no fear, have no fear. But you need courage where you do have fear. Otherwise, you wouldn't need courage. You just go and do it. It'd be easy and maybe even boring. But no, you got to have courage where you have fear. So what would it be like if we, instead of say, have no fear, we'd say, you have fear. Okay, now have some courage too. You know, so how can we balance the different pieces in our garden to not just be crisis, but to see the wholesomeness, to create a womb space, to remember both the darkness and the good darkness in us and around us, and the good light in us and around us. And so I'm inviting you to gather different seeds and fruit from this rich potluck of offerings that we've been given by our generous elders. And for me, when I come into something that could be a crisis, I go with shalom, my other self, hello, my other self. But it's not only hello, it's also peace with my other self. And it could be, as Diana said, a part in me that I'm not at peace with, or an other self in a human form or in another form that I'm not at peace with. And so I go in and I say this until I feel it, like the elephant I told you about, and until it's true in me. And then I can come with it, whether I speak it or I don't, it's already in me and in the energy. And if you're wondering how to do this, I recommend starting with people you're already at peace with, like your loved ones, and then expanding gradually, as we were talking at the beginning with Diana about expanding this circle bigger and bigger with Shalom, my other self, and also Shalom, my other self crisis, and hear what it's here to tell us, to teach us, to give us also, as well as other things. So thank you all for being with us, and we will close with Iya. Can you give us the closing prayer or blessing, please?
I'm reminded of the old woman who remembers that this is not the first time that she witnessed a change in creation. And when she's looking for the answer for the question, how do I resolve the crisis in life right now? She returns back to the cave and look at what was broken initially. What got broken, she might ask herself. So where do I begin to weave? She might ask herself. The weaving, she says, begin when we turn within that which we have forgotten. When we turn back inward to that created impulse that gave us life, that gave us breath, that we remember that innocence when we felt free to choose and safe to create and give birth to our children and to give birth to those things that was needed in our lives before we turn them over to some other who came from outside of ourselves and made us believe that it had the answers for us, she says. I go back now and I weave together this forgotten truth. I weave together this forgotten truth. And I think all of us here has spoken to that unforgotten truth in some ways, whether it was singing hello, oh, and how I greet you, my friend. Well, it was remembering that imagination and being free enough to go into the imagination and trust what was emerging and asking to be placed upon the canvas, to be mirrored into the world again, that wholeness. Can we allow ourselves to feel that kind of innocence and safetyness again? During this full moon time, it is very transformative transformation, and it's asking us to die to an old self. Can we die to the old self, the old definitions that we gave ourselves or that we allowed to come from the outside to define who we are? Can we die to those, release those? Can we emerge again with a new vision on the surface and begin to weave together a new pattern, a new vision for creation in our time, elders, mothers? Can we trust ourselves to weave together a new vision? I ask you to join me, grandmothers, join me, women, in that deep wisdom that you carry already in yourself that's been waiting for this time to unravel itself again and come to the surface of earth. Let's dream together a new world. Let's hold together a new vision. And let's grieve those things that need to be grieved. Let's be willing to forgive ourselves for our own ignorance, to believe other than this creation story, this story, our capacity to weave together a beautiful earth. Let's come together and weave together, my dear sisters. Bring it into your heart. Bring it into your own womb and just put your hands there and give some gratitude to it and say, thank you. I'm so grateful to be here in this circle, in this holy of holy moment to create again. Thank you, great grandmothers. Thank you, ancestors. Thank you all who showed up here to support this circle today, the seen and the unseen. Thank you. We are so grateful. And so it be. Ashe, Ashe, Aho, Amen. Thank you.
Ashe, aho, amen. Thank you, Iya. Thank you to the elders. Thank you to Tina, who has facilitated and helped us with all the tech stuff that's always going crazy in those circles. We're nearly used to it by now. It's like Spirit's way of playing with us a little bit, saying, hey, I'm here, let me tickle you a little bit. So we have Tina or Liberty or other great facilitators, and we can just relax and trust them to do the tech and the elders to do the wisdom and the rest of you to do the listening. So this has been such a deep, beautiful listening that allows the elders to really show up and bring what they want to bring. Otherwise, they don't bring it. I know that they're sensing the energy, and every encounter is a co-creation. So thank you for this beautiful one, for co-creating this with us. And if you would like to nourish us back, one of the ways is to donate. I will put the donation link. You know, as Rita Blumenstein was saying, we have two wings, and in order to fly, we need to feed both, take care both of the spiritual one that the elders are helping us with, and the physical one, the earthly one. So you're welcome to do that. Another way is we're gonna leave the chat box open for 2 silent minutes. And if you want to put there your offering, and again, just listening to each other and nourishing back from your words and offerings. Thank you. See you next time.
Hi.
And Tina and everyone, we will move to gallery view. And if people want to unmute and say something, a word in their native language, or I don't know, Toda, Shalom.
תודה
No.
רבה. לילה טוב.
לילה טוב.
תודה.
ברוכה היא.
תודה.
Night. Thank you all.
Kavala some.
No dupe. Have a great week, everyone.
Goodbye, and thank you so much, everyone, especially the elders, but everyone and the organizer, and thank you so much.
Bye.
Merci. Bonne soirée. À bientôt.
Bonsoir. Hilary, you were muted. We didn't hear you.
Thanks to everyone.
You will see in our newsletter next month, we are collaborating with a big summit called One Earth, One Health, One With. So it's on the 24th, the women's circle, but the elders are giving other sessions. It's from April 20th to 26th. So see you
Okay.
then.
My daughter's birthday. Okay.
Ooh.
Good to see you there.
Good to see you, Evangelia.
What a day.
Blessings to your daughters.
My dad was flickering the light in the kitchen when Susan spoke. I said, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Big love to everyone.
Bye.
You too.
Stay.
Bye.
Bye.
Au revoir.
Wow. Kat, is that you? You're muted, Kat.
Yes, it is me. So grateful for you gathering these wise women. Thank you. Best
It
wishes
says
to your
Zoom
family.
user, so I didn't know it was you until now.
I don't know how to change that.
The name? Come on, Kat. You just click on the three dots and then maybe I'll stop the recording and the live. How do I stop that thing? Tina, can you stop the YouTube stream?